I'm going to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, June 25th. If everyone would rise to recite the pledge with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have kind of slim pickings tonight. We have Ryan Osmus, Jeff Hires, and myself here, and we have Tracy Rankin via telephone from the floodwaters of Texas. We need an adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report.
With the addition
yes.
of, I'd like to ask, consent agenda item H is going to be removed until next month. There are some changes to the bids that need to occur, so we'd ask for item H to be removed from the consent agenda. And then discussion needs to take place about the interviews that preceded the meeting here. And item 6 of Part B, the business report, would be selection of a school board attorney. Those two changes. I would also note that our public information officer is no longer with us, so I asked the gallery to send out tweets because we have none tonight.
You guys have an assignment tonight.
Let them know we're still going on.
You thought school was out.
Accurate information, please.
I'll move.
All right, we have a motion by Ryan,
I'll second it.
second by Jeff. All in favor? Tracy, are you and I? Tracy, are you there?
She was there when the meeting started.
She was.
She's got to be there for a quorum.
Yeah, we got to have it. Tracy?
This may be a short meeting.
She disappeared.
That might.
You want to call her on the
Oh,
cell phone?
let's see. She
Or is she
just
on?
texted me. Something happened. I got dropped. Okay, I'm going to call her on my cell phone, and we'll put her on speaker.
You got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you approve everything?
Are you there? No, that's fine. Okay, so you're obviously on my cell phone now instead of the other, so if you can't hear something or you need me to repeat something, just let me know. We had a motion by Ryan and a second by Jeff to approve the adoption of the agenda with the supplemental personnel report, and we took off the approval of bids for the custodial equipment, and we added the discussion and appointment of board attorney under business services. And so are you in favor of that motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 4-0. We have no special presentations. Recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you'd like to address the board, please do so at this time. See nobody jump up, we'll move on. We've got another public hearing to amend the 2017-18 budget. Mr. Hammond.
We had some changes in the early childhood development program that we knew about early in the year, but it was not when we approved the budget. We held that thinking that way if anything else changed, we could do it at one time. And of course, we did that at the last meeting. This is $1,000 that we received late in the year from the state, and we need to increase the fund by $1,000 plus that is required to transfer in order to spend the money. So if it's later on to approve this. If there are no public questions about it, then we'll just wait until we come on the agenda for approval.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bill. Okay, next up, we have the consent agenda. I won't read through all of that, but I would like to make note of the link grant is one of the things that we're consenting to, and that's a big yahoo.
And much congratulations goes to Tammy Nidler and all the effort that she put into it, because she spent a lion's share of the time making that grant possible and deserves that credit. So it is appreciated.
And that'll be a great,
Very good.
great addition, influx of money to the district to help with literacy and.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and go to a great cause. And I don't know if you saw the news release or not, but 4 school districts in the state were selected and 4 entities, which were consortiums. And we were one of the 4 school districts. And I don't know exactly how many applications were in, but I know it was heavily competed for, because it is a sizable amount of money for a cause that everybody is having the need for literacy. And so I feel very fortunate that we were able to do it, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah, very good. Great. So I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I would make that motion as stated, with the removal of item H.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Jeff and a second by Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Next up, we have new business, curriculum and instruction. Mrs. Nedler?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have 2 pieces that I want to go over with you, and they're both pertaining to Bright Beginnings. The first one is around our class observation review. And class is a measurement tool of the environment of the classroom in an early learning setting. And the Federal Head Start uses it as a measurement part of the federal review. They don't mandate the use of it, but they do use it as a measurement. So it kind of mandates the use of it. We've used it for off and on for years, just to kind of help make sure that the classroom environment is appropriate for student learning. So as part of the review this year, our class scores have come in. And on all of the 3 domains, the top score is a 7. And then the bottom, of course, is down to a 1. And so in the first 2 domains, emotional support and classroom organization, we have a 6.26 and a 6.45. Again, that's out of 7. That is up from the time that we've had our review before, and right on to about what we're seeing in our classrooms when we have our class reviews internally. And so those scores we believe are high, and of course it breaks it down into each category of the domain, and wanting to work on different areas, but we're really pleased with those 2 areas. The third domain is instructional support, and it was a 2.6. Right now, federally, the average of that sits right at about a 3. And so although 7 is the goal, nationally it's not being accomplished. And so those are areas that, of course, we're trying to focus on. When we do our measurements internally, we are at a 4 or above on there. And so again, still areas that we want to work on, but nationally those scores are very low. And so that's where we're sitting across the board with our class scores. In your board packet, you have a lot of class information, and I'm not going to go in depth about that, but that kind of gives you a perspective of what you're seeing from the national on 2017-18 averages from each domain. The blue one, and I'll hold it up, but it looks like this with the bars. That shows you what we are doing in the classrooms, and then also kind of how that falls nationally. And then there's some handouts that help explain what the class tool is used for. And then right now, the National Head Start does not have what their expectation is. In the past, they used to go, depending on the review year, they would take an average of everybody who was reviewed that year, and then they would set a top 10, a bottom 10, and create an average. So your target always moves depending on the programs that are reviewed that year. And they're talking about, instead of doing that, setting a certain bar, and you can't go below this bar or whatever. But they haven't decided yet. So we'll just sit and wait until they've decided what they're going to do, and then we'll respond accordingly. So those are the class scores as part of our review. Now, there are two parts to the review. One of them you guys took part in when they interviewed the board, and they look at the program as a whole, and we're still waiting on that information. They said that would come out 3 to 6 months, and so July would be 3 months, and so we'll start looking for that in July. But the class scores are the second part of that, and that is here. So that's just information sharing with you. Do you guys have any questions? All right. The next one is in reference to, in August last year, we spoken with you several times about a supervision piece that happened in August, and then the program adjusted some of their policies and procedures, and we've talked to you about it in weekend review and in board meetings. However, there was a letter that was sent in October that needed to be formally taken to the board for acknowledgement. And so, although we've told you about the information, the actual letter did not come formally to the board. And so in May, we got a letter stating that we have a non-compliance area because the other letter did not come to the board. So we're bringing both of them to you today, and we, as an information piece, but to making sure that, I think it's important for Head Start that we're keeping the board informed, and we feel like we do a good job, again, through weekend review and board meetings. But this is an expectation now that they have as part of the new standards, and so as part of that shift, kind of learning program-wise, we'll get it figured out. So here are the letters again. I'm just bringing to your attention. Do you have any questions on that?
But we don't need to make any kind of an action or motion on it.
It just needs to be in, we have it marked as an information item. Debbie, did they say it needed to be approval? Didn't. It just needs to be in the agenda and the board minutes, so.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
good.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like Mr. Whiff is up.
Yes, he is.
See how easy this is? I don't know how you do it. Yeah.
Good evening, board members,
Last time.
Mr. Superintendent, Board President. On page 146 of your agenda, I'm bringing forth today E-rate approval. And I tried to explain there in that paragraph, but the bottom line is E-rate awarded us $511,000. It deducted some. We actually applied for that $700,000, but by the time they equalized between schools and our 15%, it knocked us down to $511,000. The main thing I want you to know, I'm asking permission to still fund the full project, which means every school, every wiring closet, or every campus is going to get a new switch, head-end switch, and throughout the district, the older access points, as you see here, wireless. It has to do with our network infrastructure, period. All the equipment we're asking for. So again, I'm going to take, we're going to take $189,000 from the computer budget and redirect it into this to complete the project. And we can easily do that. And that's the bottom line.
Okay.
Still a good deal for us, I think. Mm-hmm. So we're asking for your approval. If questions, I'll try to answer.
Okay. Any questions?
This is just strictly for internet access? Well, it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Say it again.
It's just strictly for internet access?
Right. Universal, the E-rate people, the main purpose is to get internet to the student level.
Right. Okay.
Very good.
Well, it's no, wait. Maybe I better clarify. It's network. It has to do with email. It'll help with email, anything on the network that we're due. Internet access is, like you're talking, the way what it means to me is Cox Internet Service. We E-rate approved that also. This is not part of this. This is the actual hardware we need to deliver the internet to the classrooms.
Okay. I would make a motion to accept the actual E-rate funding plus the $189,000 coming from the computer budget.
700,466.
Right.
Second.
Motion by Jeff and a second by Ryan. All in favor? Okay, 4-0. Thank you, Ray. And business services, Mr. Hammond?
That was a big step that we just took because that really brings the district up to a level that we need to be, and it's just a great opportunity, and I appreciate Ray's effort on getting all of that acquired, so.
You know, the week in review, I tried to explain and keep telling you what's going on with that. There's a lot of work involved, but you see it's worth it.
Right.
It's going to be fun to watch because Ray predicts that this will outlive his tenure of retirement, and I told him at 20 years.
I would say at least 10.
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
The first item tonight is to approve the amended 2017-2018 budget. We've published this as required by law, and we also had the public hearing earlier. So basically, the Board of Education was respectfully requested to adopt the published budget amended for 2017-2018 and authorize the clerk of the board to file the same with the county clerk and the Kansas State Department of Education.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Jeff. All in favor? 4-0.
And I would mention again that when amending the budget, you cannot raise taxes as a result thereof. I just always want to mention that on TV when we're there, so if anybody has any questions on that. The second item is really one for discussion information. We had a work session with the board, and the board at that time talked about some of the issues about Therapeutic Education Center, TEC. We've been working on that. We've looked at a permanent facility. We've also looked at a possible building D. We've included our folks in those discussions, and architect Tom Montgomery. We've talked about Memorial Stadium before. And what we discovered about Memorial Stadium is that in order to meet the current code, it takes 55 women's fixtures for a 5,000-seat auditorium or for a stadium. And that is an expensive item. We've talked with the athletic people about entries, ticket booths. We've talked about locker rooms, press box, parking pavement. We've talked about a possibility of TEC instead of building a new facility. When we had the discussions, a lot of it centered around the need for more hands-on education, labs and so forth. Well, we had those potentially in Building D, which is currently used for our maintenance facility. We're questioning if we could build a new maintenance facility and move that facility, the TEC program there. There's just a lot of issues. And I'll be very candid, I thought after we passed the bond issue, my job and work on this area would be kind of done. I'm finding out there's still some things out there. And we just are kind of listing all these things. And the question is, for example, in early childhood, we were pretty well in good shape, and then they came up and they decided maybe we needed to have all day instead of half-day sessions. Well, if you have all day instead of half-day, you suddenly need more classrooms. So how's that going to impact the district in the future? So really, this is kind of an information item, kind of a heads up for the board. You may want to, and I'm not in any way, but you may want to have Tom Montgomery come out and maybe spend an hour or 2 hours with the board in a work session, kind of go through these so we can get the board's, what are your priorities? What do you see? Are we heading the right direction? Are we asking the right questions on these? Just kind of information tonight and kind of a general thing. And then, of course, the next question is if we're going to do this, start to look at what are the possible funding scenarios for each of these projects.
Yeah. I do think it might be a good idea to have another work session to look at this a little more in depth and see what we can do.
I would suggest if it is a specific topic such as projects, we could do an evening session sometime, but I would strongly recommend we wait until August or something, just because of summer vacations and
Right.
all of that, rather than trying to align schedules that are never going to align.
Right,
So
yeah.
I
Very
think we
good.
should wait till either August or even early September.
Maybe our organizational meeting in July, maybe we could look at setting a date.
Picking some dates, yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay.
Anyway, those are the items on the list. If there's more items that any board members feel should be on the list, please let us know. We'll put it on the list. Again, we've done some preliminary work, but we kind of need some direction from the board to know which way we want to go. Okay, I'm supposed to not, yes, now, Ray. That's, the next item is resolution to increase the local option budget. And I want to be clear this evening, I'm not asking the board at this time to raise taxes, not asking the board at this time to do anything like that at all, but there is, in the handout that you're going to see, I want to kind of talk about something for just a few minutes. We have consistently, at USD 443, since I've been here, we've tried to maximize the amount of income we receive with the mill levy that the board has authorized us to charge, if you will, the taxpayers. I'd like you to go to LOB example 2 if you could, and I want to be very clear, this is not an exact, this is really an overview. This is about a 20,000 foot overview of these 3 items. Because to be exact, we have to include tax in process, delinquent taxes, we have to include motor vehicle, recreational vehicle, a number of other areas that affect this, but this will give you the idea of, I think, what I'm trying to say this evening. The bottom line is we get a better return for investment on local option budget than any other mills that we spend. The 20 mills that they do statewide, it's just the way it is. But if you look at the LOB right now, and this again is an estimate based, it's a 20,000 foot overview, it's not exact, but basically for every mill, we end up with about 806,000 in spending capacity, USD 443. And that's just a rough number, but that's pretty well intended. If you go to capital outlay, the mill levy, one mill will bring in a total of about $373,333. Again, rough estimate, we have to do a lot more calculation to get exact, but it's going to be the same thing. And bond and interest, if you'll notice, every mill generates about 694,444.
Okay, I'm having, can
Column
I?
2, right here.
Okay, I'm having a hard time following you.
I'm sorry. Lisa's, okay.
What he's saying is for the local effort, one
Got you.
is 806 for capital outlay, 373, and bond and interest
That's what I couldn't find.
is 694.
Got you.
Over the last number of years, if we've had a choice whether we're going to tax LOB or bond and interest, we've obviously taxed LOB because we get a better return for the local taxpayers' investment from the state. And as we kind of looked at all the projects needing to be done, plus trying to meet all the constitutional requirements of education, continue to do what we're doing, I'm kind of out looking for any source of revenue I can get. And it occurred to me if we could go to 33 mills, or 33% instead of 30%, we could increase the number of mills that we're doing in LOB versus capital outlay. I'll be very candid. I thought the Supreme Court would not allow the current law to stand. It did, so it is constitutional. And there's basically 2 laws, and this even gets a little more complicated. But the law through June 30th says that we have to publish this, and within 30 days after the publication, people have the right to protest. It takes 5% of the electors to protest. And if nobody protests, then you can go to your 33%. And that is out for basically 30 days. After June 30th, starting July 1, if we were to take the same action, it's under a new law. The new law says you have to have basically it published and then out for 40-some days, but you have to have at least 10% of the people protest it.
How many?
10%.
10%.
So it goes from 5 to 10%. We tried to work through a calendar, and it's our belief, if the board approves, and again, I know this is kind of new, and it's, I hate to throw these things on the board without having a meeting or 2 to present it. But it's our belief, if we can get this approved this evening, we can get our budget approved in a timely manner and use this method to bring more dollars into the district without raising the mill levy.
So, Bill, if we were to approve this tonight, that doesn't raise people's taxes.
Absolutely not. The only thing that will raise taxes or not raise taxes is the action you'll take at the August board meeting when you approve the budget. That's the only thing, that's when you're setting the tax rate for the next year. What this does, it gives the board the authority on, would you rather tax capital outlay mills or would you rather tax LOB mills?
And so if we didn't want to raise taxes on the budget, then we would increase the LOB and decrease it somewhere else.
Capital outlay, yes. Now, there is another possibility. I'm going to make this more complicated this evening. With the passage of the bond issue, we're going to end up leveling out about 9.5 mills. We have actually not fully funded bonded interest that we could have because we didn't need to. We've come out ahead in bonded interest. We're going to be beneath on bonded interest what we thought it was when we went to the voters. We're coming out ahead. Why? Because the percentage that the state is paying is greater than we anticipated. So we're really doing pretty well on bonded interest. Again, at some point, we've got to come up to about 9.5 mils on bonded interest. But at this point, we don't need to. So between now and July, when we publish the budget, we're going to be looking in my office what's the best way to present and how do we maximize dollars for this district and have some discussions with the board in July prior to the publication of the budget. So if that is confusing, please understand it is a confusing thing and there's lots of moving pieces in this. But anyway, that's kind of where we are.
The bottom line of the focus that I've shared with Bill is that I want to keep the mill levy total flat.
Right.
And he understands that. And what he's asking to do is to get this resolution passed because we receive more state aid in the LOB than we do in other areas. And this would maximize our LOB, give us more state aid dollars, and end up being more total dollars in the end with the same mill levy total.
Yeah, they've both addressed it, but I don't understand all the intricacies, but I do understand that by moving that to 33, we increase revenue. And as long as we can do that without raising taxes, then I'm good, I'm fine with that.
Bill, the bonded interest you were talking about has no bearing on that. You just were sharing that as information.
We have actually backed off a little bit on bonded interest because we had enough of a reserve there. We felt like it was in the best interest of the district to tax in LOB or other areas. We think next year there may be an opportunity to do that. We've been looking at that very seriously. But not next year, but the year afterwards, we need to tax about 9.5 mils, which is a little more than we're doing now in bonded interest to pay off the debt. I think, and I had the number earlier, which I probably couldn't find, but it was quite a bit more when we originally passed the bond issue. It was significantly more than 9.5. So we're definitely below on bonded interest where we told the voters we would be, and we will continue to.
So let's be transparent about that. In 2 years, if we have to go to 9.5, and let's pretend everything is static and it remains the same, we're going to have to lower some category to increase that category to keep the mill levy flat.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's a decision that, now, the chances of everything being static are very slim, and we don't know how state aid is going to increase from the decision that was made by the Supreme Court today. However, the only thing I've been hammering home that you and I have talked about together is keeping the mill levy flat. So that's what we're trying to do as far as the total amount.
Yeah. Okay. Tracy, are you comfortable voting on this tonight with the information you've had?
Yeah, initially I don't know that I would have been, but with the added information, I feel more comfortable.
Okay. Right, I'd entertain a motion then.
Okay, I make a motion that we increase the local option budget, the LOB, to 33%.
It's actually a resolution giving the board the authority to.
Get
Okay.
it right, hires.
And I'm not trying to be picky on that, but
I make a motion to give the board authority to make a resolution
right.
to increase the local option budget
Right.
to 33%. As with the understanding that it will not raise total mill levy.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, a motion by Jeff and a second by Ryan. All in favor? Okay, 4-0.
All right. Two other bits of information. Ms. Keegan asked that I put together the information, what is a mill cost on a $100,000 home, and that's the second page of this. Basically, if you have a home appraised at $100,000, the residential rate's 11.5%, which comes out to the assessed valuation is $11,500, and of course it's 1/1000th of that, so your taxes on one mill for a $100,000 home are $11.50 or less than $1 a month. Just information, again, things. And I guess the final piece of information is just to show that we haven't raised taxes. We could have last year, if you had maxed out the legal ability of the board to do this, you could have gone to the full 8 mills. Again, we used some of those mills in LOB last year because we felt it was a better, thing for the investment. And so basically, this is the dollars we didn't collect because the board held the mill levy at the same amount. So I just want you to understand that's kind of how that works.
Bill, does the action tonight escape the clause for the July 1, or do you have to get the resolution published in the newspaper before July 1?
We intend to publish it as soon as possible. It's my understanding that by taking the action tonight, we are under the law because the board acted in this fiscal year before the July 1 law comes into effect.
We receive a monthly or weekly newsletter from the school finance department, and in today's newsletter, we did receive information on the revised LOB, which stated exactly what Bill quoted you, that effective July 1, there is a change because of House and Senate Bill 61 to the LOB. So, and it was accurately represented tonight. So it's good to know.
Thank you for that action. The next item tonight is the board voted for a new administration building. And of course, with the new administration building comes the architectural fees as we move forward with design, development, construction documents. We anticipate that the construction will be put out in at least 2, 3, or possibly 4 packages. And we're trying to do that so we can expedite the construction as fast as possible and yet also have adequate time for input in making final decisions. So the Board of Education was respectfully requested to approve standard form of agreement between architect and owner in the amount of $817,000 and reimbursable expenses not to exceed $15,000 to be paid from capital outlay. The board is further requested to authorize the clerk of the board to issue a purchase order and sign a contract subject to review by board council. So I think that's all in here. Are there any questions?
No.
Jeff, you got a question?
No, we just, yeah, I was we can't ask them to throw one in for us. We've done so much work for us.
I can ask.
That's a good question.
Don't we get something pro bono here? I mean, geez. I'll make a motion. I think I've made enough motions for Tom to send him into retirement.
Second.
We have a
Yes.
motion by Jeff and a second by Ryan. All in favor? All right, 4-0.
The next item is the Dodge City Middle School change order. This is number 13. And basically, there's a certain number of things while you're there, you just want to do it. And basically, they came and we needed to paint the auditorium. They got people there to do it. And so we got a cost from them, and it was we thought a good bid to do that and get it taken care of, clean that up. And so that's the change order that we're requesting tonight. And this one is going to be paid from the capital outlay fund because it's kind of beyond what the original scope of the project was. But there are funds available to do that. So
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Ryan and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 4-0.
let's see. I basically, if I might take just one moment, there was a discussion on our issue with health insurance. We are going to be sending some information out to the board on health insurance. We kind of have an interim report on that. I was contacted and informed that we'd already signed an agreement with an out-of-town firm to provide health insurance, or not health insurance, but care for all our employees and so forth. We have not done anything like that. We have a plan in place to engage, first of all, our insurance committee, hopefully some board members, in a discussion, kind of a visiting sense of what we might do. And then we need to meet with local providers, and we pretty well have outlined that. But it's just interesting, the rumors that you hear, and then you know, where on earth did that come from? Don't have a clue, but just wanted to inform the board that is not the case this evening.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We added an item to the business section for selection of school attorney, and I do believe after visiting that it might be worth bringing that up tonight since we
Yes.
did have the interviews. So I
Yes.
didn't want to forget that. That was added to the agenda.
Yeah. So we, at 5 this evening, we interviewed 2 candidates to be our new board attorney. We had Andy Stein and Clayton Curbs both interviewed. And I feel like either one would be able to serve us quite well. But I would like to make a motion that we would appoint Clayton Curbs as our next board attorney.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Lisa and a second by Ryan. All in favor? 4-0. Okay.
And that's effective for the 18-19 school year? Correct?
Yes,
Or should we
thank
start
you.
now? Do we start, I mean, just we'll start now, hadn't we?
Unless Brad's gonna stick around.
Yeah.
That's true. We could start now.
All right. Thank you, board. Definitely.
There you
I
go.
meant that. You're accusing me of being serious, and then you're laughing when I give you gratuities.
It was,
All right.
it was cute, Doc, it was cute.
Well, let's move to a fun topic. Let's talk about Board of Education policy revisions.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing quite as interesting as that. Last time these came out, I bragged that they only had one change. This time they serve us with 28. However, some of them are as simple as the identification number has changed because the legislative body went through and reformatted Section 72, Chapter 72 of the Kansas statutes annotated. And so some of them are very simply just a change in the 72 dash whatever identification, but yet that still needs to be acknowledged by the board. This is the first month's reading, and I'll ask for approval in July. Ask you to look them over. I don't believe there is anything that is going to be of any conflict, but I will take it to the cabinet and look through each one of them to make sure. And at this point, I just wanted you to be aware of why there were so many in the document this time. So just consider this a first reading and information item for you.
Okay. Thank you.
The other item that I had for tonight's meeting is the approval of the memorandum of agreement with the Dodge City Library for the Heritage Center. And I believe we've worked on this for a lengthy amount of time. However, it finally came down to, with the same attorney between the library and the school district, coming up with a document. And I'll tell you this much, we thought we had it completed, and it got down to the last time we thought we were trading, and we found one other item, and so it has been vetted, if you will, quite thoroughly. And Ralph's been with us through this whole process, along with the library as well. Mm-hmm. So tonight, you technically have approved this already, but tonight it's in written form in the MOA. So I'm just asking for your approval of the agreement so that we have an official document. Brandon Hines is on his last week at the public library and was wanting us to get this to him, and so this will help provide that.
Do they have a replacement yet, or?
I have not
once he's-
heard of it.
They do. I don't know the name, but I remember seeing that there is a
Okay,
replacement.
I'm not up on that and haven't had a chance to meet him yet. So, all right.
I don't know what you just said, but I don't know if I
He's
like
being a
that.
smart aleck.
Yeah,
Okay.
duh.
I'm trying to take her away from me.
You need a motion?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I
Sorry.
need a motion. So I would make a motion, we approve what we've already approved, but now we're approving the document that shows what we've approved.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Well explained.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Jeff and a second by Ryan. All in favor? 4-0. Okay, announcements. Monday, July 9th, Board of Education Annual Organizational Meeting here in the Austin Boardroom at 6 o'clock. And I believe this may qualify as our shortest board meeting ever.
Except we do have
Except
one
we do,
executive session.
for you all.
And I do have one other thing that I wanted to mention is, first of all, we have 2 board members that haven't got their portraits taken yet. And then I have a desire for us to have a board meeting when there are 7 board members present,
Me too.
so that we can have a group photograph as well for our webpage and other things. But so I'm going to be asking for that to find out, because I would rather have a picture with all members present than to say also on the picture. So
There was one year where they
hear.
photoshopped Jeff in because we had it 6, so.
okay, I would prefer to do it with us all present.
Me too.
It's getting old, you can't hear.
That being said, the other thing that I just want to remind everybody, we're working on slowly with the change and all that. We do want to keep in mind that August 12th is going to be our open house for the community with all of the construction. I didn't get a construction update today, but I do assume that the middle school is going to be open and ready to show. And Central is looking fantastic with the opening now, with the building out of the way. It really gives you a presence of the side, and I continue to receive compliments on how they matched
Yes.
the building and how the brick connects so seamlessly.
Yeah,
And
me too.
so people are anxious to see it, and actually I've had a couple of comments. Some people don't think 3 hours is long enough, but that's kind of what we decided, and it takes a lot to get every building open. And
I had somebody say, but I want to see every school.
yeah. Well, and to that end, we are going to have videos available in the school, and we are going to make an announcement, that please feel free to visit any school at any time. That, I mean, we are a public building. We would be more than happy to
Right.
show off our new place,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, so we do need an executive session for discussion of personnel matters. Who do we,
I would like Ramona to be here and myself, and I need 15 minutes.
okay? Yeah, we need a
Do I
couple
need a motion
minutes.
for that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
make a motion
Executive session.
for Ryan, from Ryan, a second by Jeff. All in favor? 4-0. And we need a couple minutes, Tracy, if you can just hold on.